Hello and welcome to another IoT Builders, a live stream where we discuss a range of topics on the Internet of Things, from embedded devices to cloud services, all from an IoT Builder perspective. It is November 23rd, and this is episode 10 of our weekly live stream. And today we have Lucio Di Jasio joining us to talk about AWS IoT Express Link, free RTOS, and the upcoming reInvent conference in Las Vegas, which is just 5 days away. My name is Dan Gross. I'm a senior developer advocate for free RTOS and AWS IoT. I am joined by my colleagues and co-hosts. Let's see who we have on the line. Hey guys, Alina, Nenad, Syed.
Hi Dan. Hi everyone. Happy to see you all joining. My name is Alina, and you probably know me by now. I am also a developer advocate in the AWS IoT team.
Yeah, so hi everybody. I'm Nenad. I'm as well same team, developer advocate. Glad to be here as always.
Awesome. And Syed, are you there?
Yeah, hi guys. Just like my rest of my colleagues, I'm a senior developer advocate within AWS IoT service team.
Awesome. Sounds good. So today we have Lucio Di Jasio joining us to talk about some of the topics I mentioned earlier. Let's see, Lucio, are you on the line?
Hey, hi there. Let's see if you can hear me.
I sure can.
Oh man, that works well. Thanks for having me. And glad to join the gang here. I'm the principal product manager for AWS, and I take care of FreeRTOS, the Express Link, and a few other device things.
Excellent. Yeah, so this is the first time we've had you on IoT Builders, but you and I have done some live streams in the past.
Yeah, 16 of them.
all around Express Link.
Yeah.
Which is what you're here to talk to us today about, is some of the new developments around Express Link, right?
I'd love to. Yes, there's so much going on, and I really enjoyed our live streams there. I'm eager to explore this medium here, this special Twitter podcasting thing here.
Yeah. What's very interesting, blast from the past, is that I see that Tim Madison is on the line. Our moderator from the Twitch series, and so we're bringing the band back. Apparently, it's all happening. All right, so let's see. How do you want to start? Express Link was announced, I guess, last reInvent, and then the 1.0 general availability release was done in June this year. And so what's been happening for the last few months, and what do we have to look forward to at this reInvent?
Yeah, we've been busy, as you can imagine. Having the Embedded World event moved to June was quite useful for us, I must admit, right? We were struggling to get ready for March, which is the usual kind of time frame for the event, and that bought us a few extra months to get everything perfectly in order. We got a great show there, I think. But frankly, the 1.0, the general availability announcement, got all our partners ready. But by that time, we were already busy working on the next development, the next set of features for Express Link. And so actually, last week, we launched the second big feature release, so 1.1 really, that adds some important new pieces to the Express Link technical specification. But I'm thinking then, I don't know if people listening to us now or later, maybe in a recording, they will know what ExpressLink really is or what it does. I don't know if we can assume that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we should take a step back and talk a little bit about what ExpressLink is. What are we talking about when we're mentioning ExpressLink? If you don't know, maybe you could jump into some of the core aspects of what ExpressLink is.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best secrets, best kept secrets in the industry, I think, at this point.
But you're not biased or anything.
No. But, if I have to tell you in 10 seconds what ExpressLink is, think about a connectivity module like a Wi-Fi or a cellular connectivity module for, that is available today for IoT device development, and just make it smarter. That's essentially the one sentence, explanation of what ExpressLink is. It's basically taking a connectivity module and making it so smart that it understands cloud. Instead of connecting you just to the internet and then off you're on your own, figure out how to communicate with the wild world out there, right? The ExpressLink modules, actually, they know how to talk to the cloud. And in particular, they know very well how to communicate with the AWS cloud. And that means that they know, that they do for you automatically everything that is needed to connect your devices to your account in AWS. And then from there, they give you direct access to, 250, I forgot how many services there are now in AWS cloud. So your humble microcontroller can now access all of those basically instantaneously. And that's a huge amount of smart concentrated into a very, very small package.
Right. And so to dispel the magic, it's basically hardware and software, and we AWS did not do it alone, right?
Oh, no.
The hardware actually comes from partners of AWS that build and produce the hardware itself.
Correct. Yeah. So we don't build the modules. So what we did, we created a specification, right? We created a new standard, if you want, and we set a program to. So we published the documentation. Then we set up a program to enable partners to qualify their modules, and so that they get tested and they get, we verify that they're actually implementing some pretty strict security requirements that we demanded, right? So no shortcuts, we wanted them to use the best security practices in the industry, basically. So hardware root of trust, so mutual authentication, so, all the good things. Secure boot. I mean, I can go down. It's a long list of requirements,
right.
But
right, there's a lot baked into an ExpressLink module. It's not just any old connectivity module, right? There's a lot baked into that in terms of the specification, in terms of security, in terms of testing, all of that.
Yes, they're packed. I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of lines of code that are packed inside the product, and the idea is that really, if you're designing an IoT device, that's kind of the repetitive, the boring, the just a heavy workload that is undifferentiated, right? So no matter if you're designing a connected toaster, that's my favorite example, or
well, you must make a lot of toast, Lucio, because you keep bringing up this smart toaster idea.
I do love toasters. Flying toasters. And so it doesn't matter anyway what your product is. If it's a nuclear plant or it's a toaster, you when you connect to the cloud and you want to access the AWS services, you all these products have to follow exactly the same pattern, always the same connectivity sequence of authentication steps, and the same crypto algorithms are being used, and there's a lot of heavy lift there that basically now we packed into this component. It's boring. You don't want to know about it. It's complicated. If you do it yourself, you probably get it wrong. It's that kind of stuff. And and so we put it into the product. It's part of a component that you just buy off the shelf from our partners, and the partners that we talked to really understood this concept and understood the big value. So we got at launch in June. We had 3 partners to start with. That was Infineon, Espressive, and uBlocks. And those 3 partners developed and qualified 4 different versions of ExpressLink modules. So 3 of them were Wi-Fi connectivity modules, and one of them, uBlocks, produced a second module that was also a cellular module. So you literally have the same specification, you have the same command set from the outside, from the way your host processor uses these connectivity modules. They look identical. But in reality, there is enough abstraction in the technical specification that one module can be Wi-Fi, another one can be cellular, yet the application is the same. Mm-hmm. So when you communicate to them, you say connect, and they connect in different ways. They reach the AWS account in different ways, but with equal security, with equal ease of use, right?
Right. So theoretically, this could be any connectivity protocol.
It could be. There's no limitation really built in there. So far, I'd say, frankly, that we've been mostly using mediums that are amenable to use MQTT, for example. So all the modules that we have today are behind the curtains. They are using MQTT to communicate with the cloud. But in the future, we might have other technologies using CoAP. We can use, even LoRaWAN could be made work into an ExpressLink specification. So there's enough abstraction there that we can remove all that from, the things that a customer, the developer, has to worry about when they create a connectivity module. So they can focus on the real differentiating aspect of their application,
Yeah. So let's talk about that interface. So you mentioned that, there's a lot encapsulated into an ExpressLink module, but how does the host MCU then interface with this hardware module? The serial connection there is, can be done with UART or whatever. But now, on top of that, there's this the specification includes this AT command set, right?
Yeah. It's super simple. Here we wanted to, build on something that is commonly understood in the industry. And so when you talk to a connectivity module, you think about like a modem, and for 50 years modem more existed, and they've been using an industry standard known as the V250. It's an ISO standard, and they've been building on top of it, right? So this concept of the AT commands, AT as in attention, and then and literally the two characters, stand ready, and then you type in a command, and then the module executes and says, okay, completed or error. So this kind of modus operandi is very well understood in the industry. So we wanted to stick with it. What we wanted to change, though, was that over the years, that kind of set of commands, the AT commands, had grown wild and large. And if you buy today a generic connectivity module, you will see that you have a couple hundred commands there. So, and they're all gibberish. They're all very, very hard to. Somehow they were supposed to be mnemonic at the beginning. ATD was dial back then in the days when we were dialing on the phones to connect to the internet. And
because saving characters was important, so you didn't want to have dial. You had to say D. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and back then, so you were running a 300 baud. My first modem was 1200 baud. Oh man, now I'm dating myself. But but nowadays that makes no sense. And so what we did is we said, okay, we don't need 200 commands. If we do it right, we need 12 commands. And that's what ExpressLink does. It's get only 12 commands. And then these commands are, spelled properly. So connect is spelled as connect and not, CR exclamation mark or something. And so it reads very much like English, so send, get, subscribe, and at the speed these devices operate, it doesn't make sense to save those characters.
And so these will be cloud methods, basically. Subscribe, connect, these kinds of things.
Yeah. This translates. So basically, your device, your host processor that controls your toaster, your application, actually sends very, very high level commands. It just says connect, and there is a huge sequence of things that has to happen after the command to connect is given, but your application doesn't have to worry about that. The inside the ExpressLink module will work really hard for maybe up to a second, and which is a lot of work if you think at the speed these processors operate nowadays. So a couple million operations, couple 100 million operations will happen, and then ta-da, you're connected now to your account. And so from that moment on, you're going to be sending data. You don't have to worry about protocols or
libraries,
linking problems. You're just sending AT send and hello world, and you see hello world in your account in the cloud, and you can trigger a lambda if you want. You can do really fancy things with just a couple characters.
Yeah, so it's easy in the sense that there's this AT command set. It's easy in the sense that a lot of the security and complexity around managing the connection itself is done in the module. But it's also easier because the footprint of your application can be reduced, right? Because now you're not mixing in libraries and trying to manage those connections yourself. Your connection is really, to the module, which will then manage all of that, right?
Yeah, I think the beauty of it is that really when you look at what your connected application now looks like, it's more. First of all, it contains only the stuff that is relevant to your application, right? So you don't have to import or merge into your application, to your project, hundreds of folders with tens of thousands of files inside, which you never will read in your lifetime. And if there is a bug hidden in there, good luck if you will ever, get to understand where that bug is. So all of that is removed, is separated from your concern, right? And your application stays small, very small. And you can write an 8-bit microcontroller application and in a few kilobytes of code and connect to the cloud, just for fun. For fun, we did that, actually.
I think you did that. Yeah.
We did.
With your potentiometer or something, right?
Yes. We took some of the smallest microcontrollers that I knew of, some of the microchip, PIC-10 family, back then. And those are 6-pin devices. Think about it. They have only 6 wires coming out of the tiny, tiny little box. And I got one of those connected to a potentiometer on one side, and then sending telemetry data into my cloud account in AWS. And, it's absurd almost, but it was really showing you how extreme is the simplification that ExpressLink can provide.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's great. Well, thanks for the review and the getting us up to speed on what ExpressLink is all about. Did we miss anything?
No, did I? Well, perhaps I should mention that, we, as of last week, we have a 4th partner now. So there's a new partner just joined.
Okay, yep.
And that is, drum roll, it's Realtek. So another Wi-Fi module was added. Realtek is a very well-known player in the industry, in the semiconductor industry. Located in Taiwan, and they had boards and SoCs that they had already qualified with FreeRTOS now for several years, and so they took the Amoeba Z2, which is a Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity module, and at light speed, they basically ported ExpressLink to it and got it qualified, and we were ready to launch last week. Amazing work.
That's fantastic. So now that adds a 4th partner to the portfolio and more choices for customers to integrate into their products.
4th partner, 5th module, 4 Wi-Fi, 1 cellular still. So the portfolio is quickly growing, and we are onboarding others. I'm not at liberty to disclose at this moment, but we are onboarding a few more for next quarter.
Great, and perhaps other protocols too. Yeah.
And working on those, but again, I can't tell you. I have to kill you if I tell you.
Carrier pigeon. That was the one that we wanted to implement, right? Is the carrier pigeon?
Yes. No, but adding the carrier pigeon version of ExpressLink. Yes. The big announcement was also last week. Really, the fact that Realtek not only joined the gang. And I must say, they joined fast, right? So they started the engagement after our launch in June. So think about in 3 months they got a new module qualified.
Wow!
But also they joined with the latest specification. So they didn't just launch with 1.0. They launched with the latest, greatest feature set, the 1.1 that we were just getting ready.
Yes, and so this is what we wanted to talk about here is the new 1.1 release that was announced last week, and what's all included in that. So Realtek basically hitched their wagon to that right out of the gate. So that's excellent. But let's talk a little bit about what is in 1.1 and what are some of the new features and functions there.
Yes. So 1.0 was literally the launch product, so a minimum feature set, right? The minimum lovable product, as we call it in Amazon. But there were things that we wanted to have added to ExpressLink as soon as possible, and then there was a list of requests from our early customers and early adopters that we also wanted to accommodate as soon as possible, right? To get the real feedback from the customers and incorporate that in the product. So we did both things. In 1.1, we added basically four new features, four new innovations, if you want, in ExpressLink. The simplest one was the deeper integration with Device Defender. Now, Device Defender is an interesting service of AWS IoT. It basically provides a way for your fleet manager, the operator that controls your fleet of devices, deployed around the world. This operator can, from the console, now observe the health state of all your devices at once, right? So, and this Device Defender is a service that enables this. Basically, it's an ingestion. It's a service that ingests data from your devices, from your IoT devices out there in the world. You set a rate at which these devices are supposed to send their health status, some metrics, a collection of very fundamental metrics. And they send them this at regular intervals. Device Defender collects all this data and then makes it available in your console so that your fleet manager can actually observe and pinpoint, among all the devices. You might have hundreds of thousands of devices out there in the fleet, but you want to pinpoint the ones that have not received the latest firmware update, or you want to pinpoint the ones that are sending too much data. For example, for some mysterious reason, they keep repeat sending the same message over and over and over, using all their bandwidth, or any anomaly that you can detect. Device Defender will help you to do that, basically. And so we wanted to integrate this more deeply, or as deeply as possible, in the fabric of ExpressLink. And so in V1.1, we have a set of custom metrics that are specifically designed around ExpressLink. And we made it so easy that you basically have to turn on a bit, basically say Device Defender on, and set a period, say a number of seconds, after which the metrics are measured and updated, and then you forget. So you set and forget, literally. So And then everything happens magically in the background. You don't have to worry about this anymore. Your device will keep sending the metrics. The metrics are going to be updated automatically at a regular interval. Every time it's connected, the latest metric is updated. And the fleet manager from the cloud console will be just happy to see the entire status of your fleet, and completely out of, completely automated, completely outside of your realm of concern, basically, right? So that's fully taken care of by ExpressLink now.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. All right. Device Defender. That's great.
That was one. That was easy. Well, it's easy now to use. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
As you can imagine. And typically, the less you can see about the feature, the more work we had to put into it. So it's kind of inverted. The second feature that, don't get me wrong, Defender could be done before, but the host would have to be more involved, right? So with this feature, Defender becomes fully automatic. A similar thing we did, a similar treatment we did for device shadow. Now, a device shadow sometimes is referred to as a digital twin. This concept of having an image of the state of your device, a virtual image retained inside the cloud, and keeping the two things in sync, right? So that your applications in the cloud can update the virtual image, this shadow, this digital twin, and then this gets mirrored into the actual real device in the real world, right? So this concept of running this parallel between the shadow and the device is quite powerful as a mechanism for writing applications, for maintaining status and tracking status of your device. And so it was possible. We preached and we demonstrated how to use it before with ExpressLink 1.0, but with 1.1 we actually added a new command, a specific command called shadow. It's got a number of parameters that you can pass to it, and it is really meant to simplify as much as possible the communication with your twin, with your shadow device, basically in the cloud. And so we created this new command that really reduces the amount of work that you have to do. You want to connect to your shadow and get notifications when your twin in the cloud is updated. You just have to do shadow subscribe, and you're done. It's finished. And there's a lot of work that happens in the background to make this happen, but you actually issue just one simple command like that.
And then you get notifications, much like you would any subscription, right?
You get an event, right? Every time there's an update, you get an event, and then you go and fetch at ease, whenever you want. It gets buffered by ExpressLink for you, and so the event will carry along a message. So you get your message containing just the delta.
I see.
It's a huge simplification.
Yeah, this is great. So Defender and Shadow were both, usable before, but really ExpressLink was just kind of a proxy in a way to the messages being sent and received. But now it's integrated, and now there's an easier way to even use that. So that lightens the application code even more.
Yes, I think that now it's so easy that for example, we have this concept of named shadows and unnamed shadow. Initially, the shadow service was offering just one shadow per device. You could have one twin. Now in last year, they added the new feature where you can have multiple shadows and give names to them, so that you can basically split apart the state of a device in parts, right? And so you have this fragment of your state that you can manage independently. And with this new shadow support, you can actually do that easily. You can actually manage multiple shadows, named shadows, and something that I would have struggled to do, honestly, without the specific support that we built into ExpressLink. I think any IoT developer on a constrained device, unless you're writing your code in a very high level language, handling all the laborious tasks that are related to maintaining multiple shadows was unthinkable before, at least to me. Now with this command set built in, it feels like Yeah, I can tackle that. It's easy now. I can have shadow 1, shadow 2, shadow 3. I can maintain them all. I can see events coming from the different shadows, and it becomes really manageable, really easy. I think we just elevated, the usability of that service by a couple notches.
That is great. And really something worth noting too is that the host itself does not necessarily have to even be an MCU. It could even be a microprocessor type of system, right?
Yeah, that's a good observation. In fact, this is a sort of a discovery. Was a discovery for me. I because of my background in the semiconductor industry, working always with very constrained microcontrollers for most of my, engineering career, I was always assuming that ExpressLink would be most appealing to the smallest devices, my favorite. But I always have a special eye for those, but I thought ExpressLink would be appealing only to those. And I'm finding more and more that instead, even large microprocessors applications, even Linux single board computers, find value in ExpressLink. Just the simplification provided is universal, right? It's not, there's good there for everybody.
Yeah, the application reduction and the security and the features and all of that actually makes it even even easier for what would be larger applications or could be larger applications.
I suppose it's really the peace of mind that having all that stuff, all the complexity concentrated into a product, and knowing that there is an entire company, right, AWS and the vendor, right, and the partners that are going to be focusing on maintaining that code clean and working and safe. It's such a peace of mind, such an enormous value that many IoT companies. I don't want to go through the whole discussion that so many IoT projects fail, it's because IoT is difficult and people don't understand how hard it is. Well, right, that's kind of a trite argument. I don't think we should spend too much time on dwelling on that. But the truth is that many companies do recognize, in fact, that it's hard, that doing IoT devices is difficult. What they do, though, is they typically think, I'm going to subcontract this, right? So I'm going to buy myself the development of the device, and it'll be a fixed cost. I'll get over it, and then I'll start recuperating after that by selling my own product. And that works until you realize that after the development of a product is done, you deployed your IoT devices in the field. You're not at the end of the journey. You're just at the beginning, right? And so the problem is that now you will have to maintain that code that somebody else developed for you. But now you will need that company, that partner, to continue for the life of the product to maintain your code and maintain your device. And now with ExpressLink, if you think, beside the simplification, besides the acceleration that it gives you, the simplicity, which means the fact that you will be able to complete your design faster and get to market faster. But if you think that that's just the beginning, actually the real value of ExpressLink comes after that. Is that after now you deployed hundreds of thousands of devices in the field, for the life of your products, the company that sold to you the modules will now do also the maintenance of the code that is hidden inside that ExpressLink module, right?
Yeah.
So, and AWS stands behind them as well. So, the whole long journey, when you think of the entire product life, which could be 10 years, can be 20 years if you think about, the transportation industry. It's common to see things that have to last 30 years. And for the life of your product, that now you have a vendor that has vested interest in maintaining the highest quality of the firmware that it goes into your module and providing you patches and updates and fixes. And when there is a new security threat discovered, which seems to be every afternoon nowadays, you know that there is a team of people that is just focused on analyzing that. And if you're a company that makes toasters, as we were saying earlier, you don't want to have to worry about those things. That should not be your worry. And with ExpressLink, it isn't. With ExpressLink, you know that the partner that sold you the company that sold you the ExpressLink module stands behind that module. And when there's a security threat, they will issue a new firmware update, and you will just be able to deploy it over the air. Just OTA, new firmware to your modules, and your fleet is now safe. Right?
Yeah.
And so this peace of mind is huge. Is a huge piece of the value of ExpressLink, I think.
Yeah. That's a really good point there. Hey, so we have let's see, two more new features that we didn't talk about yet for 1.1. You want to discuss those real quick?
Yeah, real quick. There is a new feature that actually was hidden in there all along since 1.0, which is a new onboarding method. And I'm telling you, it was hidden in there from the beginning because in the device, in the module, everything that was needed was there on June 21st. But what was missing was more of the documentation, the cloud infrastructure indeed, to enable that feature fully to be really easy to use for our customers. And so back in June, we held back on that feature, although the devices were ready for it. And we did not launch a full promotion. So that feature is actually a new onboarding method. So when we talk about onboarding, I need to be specific. So very often we talk about devices and provisioning of devices.
Yeah.
And then it's a very vague term. It means a lot of different things, provisioning a device.
Yeah, it depends where you are in the device's journey, right? Are you talking about the end user? Are you talking about getting connected to the cloud? Are you talking about at the factory,
Right. Exactly.
Claiming this connection for your device? Where are you in this process here?
Absolutely, you're right, and that so I want to be more specific. So, ExpressLink devices. So there's provisioning and provisioning. There's the first part, as you were mentioning, is the factory provisioning. So there's that, and the factory provisioning. Typically, we talk about it referring to the act of giving each device a unique identity, right? And that means that you give it a name, which is just a big long serial number, right? Probably or some random 128-bit number that is unguessable, and then you want to have a certificate, because that's what AWS requires you to do in order to authenticate yourself, right? And so you want to have a signed certificate, X509 standard thing, where you bundle that identity, that name, and you bundle it with the public key that will be used during the authentication. So you need an identity and a certificate. Now, that piece of provisioning is already done for you by ExpressLink vendors. So if you buy an ExpressLink module off the shelf, it already has that. It already has a signed certificate and already has a unique identity.
Yeah, and that lets you leapfrog over a whole bunch of processes for provisioning, essentially.
Yes, and it's amazing how many companies actually ignore that piece of the puzzle until the very end, when they realize that now they have to ship and deploy product, and they're like, oh, now I need identity. I need to be able to identify each unique device. How much is that going to cost me? And the assumption is always that costs zero, and the truth is that it costs almost $1 per device, which is huge. Is an enormous cost. And so ExpressLink devices actually have that built in. So you buy them off the shelf, they already have signed certificates, they already have unique identity. So that's the provisioning. The second piece of provisioning, though, which is where I want to focus on now, is once you have that identity in the device goes into the finished product, the toaster again, and now the end user buys the toaster, brings it home, touches to the outlet, turns it on, and now they want to connect this toaster to their name, right? So they want to
Right.
create an account. They want, because any service that will come through the cloud will be somehow supposed to benefit the user, right? The end user.
Right.
And
The first time the
yeah,
end device is actually, contacting the cloud service.
yeah, and you want to establish this connection between the end user and the device that is sitting on his desk in front of him, right? Because this connection is important. It's where the value will be, probably extracted from the connectivity, right? Not all products will need this, but I'd say a vast majority of products assume that this connection between device and user is vital to providing some additional value to the customer. And so this binding between device and user is also strictly related to first binding the device to the IoT core account. So you have to create a thing in the cloud, right? A virtual representation, which eventually can contain the shadow we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so first you have to create this identity in the cloud, and then this identity in the cloud has finally to be connected to the human sitting in front of his web browser or using the mobile application to register the device, right, and claim the device and say, "This is my toaster," right? And
Right.
so there's a three-way connection that has to be established, and the first part of this connection is where I want to focus on, which is between the physical device and a thing in the cloud. That association of the thing in the cloud and eventually that thing in the cloud with the end user, right? That first connection is non-trivial. That's what we call the onboarding. So how can an object sold in the market somewhere, anywhere around the world, find its way into an account in AWS where all the toasters are managed, right? So how do you create this connection between devices in the field and fleet items in your account in the cloud? And this connection we call onboarding for clarity, to differentiate from the rest of the provisioning. Generally speaking, this normally is considered part of the provisioning, but I want to be specific now. So onboarding, and so how do you do this onboarding? There are 6 different methods, at least, that we recommend on the AWS IoT web pages.
And this is things like JIT-P and other types of various methods depending on your fleet and depending on your provisioning mechanisms, things like that, right? So there's a number of ways to do it, but so okay.
It can be very simple, right? It doesn't have to be super fancy JIT-P. It can be just manual. You just take the certificate, you copy it, and you upload it into the registry by hand. Literally, the develop that is managing the fleet just gets one certificate and hits the button upload into the console and adds it to a registry. This can be very manual, but then it can be done in batches. Then it can be done using just-in-time JIT-P, as you were saying, JIT-R, just-in-time registration. Add a lambda to it to make it more fancy. There's a fleet provisioning methods which we won't discuss here, but with ExpressLink, we actually created yet another one that tries to simplify even further the process of onboarding, and it tries to push the binding between the thing and the user and the device and the physical device as late as possible. So the latest binding it is possible to achieve, that's what we were aiming for.
I see.
And why is that important? It's because the later you do the binding, the more flexible your supply chain is. See what I mean? If you
because you don't know, say your product is sitting in a box at Walmart or something, whatever.
Right.
You don't know who really is going to end up picking that up, purchasing it, whatever, and turning it on for the first time. We'd love to know who all of our individual customers are going to be, but you don't.
Exactly, and then until the very moment you know where your customer is, let's say in which continent is the customer actually? Let's start from which continent, right? If it's sitting in a different continent from where your account in your IoT account is sitting, you're going to have latency problems. So the experience for your customer can be affected by your choice of the account where you register the device, right? And so giving the user the flexibility to actually, or the customer the flexibility to provide the best experience possible for the user, to be flexible in where they set their accounts and where they do the onboarding automatically. No, that's huge, right? That's huge value for the customer. So we want to please our customers, of course. But we also have another issue. Now we live in a very global manufacturing-wise, world. We design products in California, wherever you want, and then we manufacture them in another country, and then we ship them in another country to be tested, and then eventually they get distributed globally. It's a global world, right? And in this world, you have to deal with a lot of other parties and other subcons that are part of your supply chain, manufacturing and supply chain, and you don't necessarily want to have strict confidential relationships with all of them. You see what I mean?
Yeah, because it's all of this is goes back to actually our whole zero trust concept that we've been talking about, I think, in the last couple episodes. Yeah.
Well said. So the thing is if you can if you consider how this onboarding works in many of these other mechanisms that we were considering earlier, it can be quite intimate, the kind of relationship that you need with the company, the subcon that will do the onboarding for you of your devices. So if you design the chips in one country, but then they get manufactured and the onboarding is happening at manufacturing, then you need to have a very strict relationship with your subcon that is doing the manufacturing, because they will have to have access to your AWS account to do the registration, which is very delicate if you think of it. You have to trust them a lot. Right?
Well, and not only that, but it could be just operationally difficult if
Yes.
there's certain permissions in teams, manage certain aspects of the this infrastructure. Oh, now how do we add them to this group, and so on and so forth? It can get quite difficult just to manage, right?
Yes, and so with the latest the binding happens, the least disclosing of secrets and confidential information and whatnot is required between you and your subcons. And the new onboarding by claim method that we launched with ExpressLink pushes this to the absolute extreme and basically creates the only connection between the only link of trust is between the manufacturer of the ExpressLink module, which is the manufacturer you trust because you buy components from, and the only other entity that you will have to trust is your end user, your customer, which you want to trust, of course, because it's in their interest actually to do things right?
Yep.
And so this is the best possible scenario, because this kind of late binding that is only possible with this onboarding by claim that we are introducing is actually giving you exactly that. It bypasses all the other subcons, all the other elements of the chain of the supply chain, and it just reduces the trust chain to only two links, to only two entities: the manufacturer of the ExpressLink module, which hopefully you trust because you buy components from them, and then your end user, which is your ultimate customer, right? The final customer. It's the best, the most flexible you can dream of. Now, there's a lot of detail, but it turns into the details are trivial if you think it's a matter of setting up a few things with your AWS account, to click here, a button here, a button there, but everything works smoothly. And for the end user, which is the most important one, the one we want to please the most, it's actually completely transparent. They don't see anything. It just happens magically behind the curtains for them.
That's great. And so this is really a key feature for ExpressLink 1.1.
I think so. It's a big differentiator. It's a big added value.
And what
It
what
won't
are you
fit.
calling this? This is the claim process, the onboarding
We
process.
call it the onboarding by claim.
Onboarding by claim. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, as the name comes from the fact that it's the end user that actually claims his own device and says, "This is mine." And doing this claim during the registration, when he's asked to register for the first time his product, he and almost unknowingly is actually claiming the device from a pool of devices that are waiting there to be called.
Right.
There's a rendezvous system where the device is actually connecting for the first time with AWS, kind of sits in a lobby and waits to be called. And then the end user connects for the first time, and during the registration process, he actually calls him up and says, "Hey, come up, you're in the lobby, you are my toaster, come in." And it's there is a very simple, if you want, mental model there that you can associate for how this whole process works for.
Very cool. Okay, very cool. So, okay, we have one feature left to mention, and then we're rapidly approaching the top of the hour, actually. So we still have to mention what's going on next week with reInvent. But so let's cover the last feature real quick, and then we'll switch gears.
Yeah, I warned you then. When you get me talking about my favorite products, you can't stop me. No, but the last one I'll make it super simple. It's really one of the most visible aspects of us listening to our first customers' feedback. And one of the first customer feedback was, "Hey, we love your command set, but how about you make the connect command asynchronous, non-blocking? Because it can take a long time. The actual connect is it's a simple command, but as I said, I think at the beginning, it triggers a long sequence of events that is very complicated and does all the mutual authentication, subscriptions, MQTT logins, whatnot. It's a long sequence of things, and having the host processor waiting there was painful for the first customers. Although you don't notice it when you're busy doing demos every day and you're launching the product and you're doing just simple demos. When you write a real application in full, you will notice that. And so
I noticed that once you start writing the code, you realize, oh, I'm not sure if it's connected yet. Let me call AT Connect again. Okay, now I'm in this other part of the code. Oh wait, I'm not sure if it's connected yet. Let me call AT Connect again. And so you end up just calling AT Connect all the time. In your code, which maybe defeats the purpose of making it simple, right?
Yeah, it kind of looked odd a bit. So it was one of the most visible things the customers asked us to change from V1.0, and so V1.1 that became fully asynchronous. You get an event when you're connected, and so you manage your state more easily, and it's just nicer. So it's a simple, small touch, but there's this new asynchronous connect.
Excellent.
Makes life better.
And that's AT Connect exclamation mark. We're really excited about connecting.
Yes. But let's talk about next week. You said
so here we are. We are 5 days away from the AWS reInvent conference in Las Vegas, and I think at least most of us will be there at the show and in various capacities. Tell us about where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing, Lucio.
I'll be busy doing a chalk talk, actually. So we will be in a very intimate setting. It will be a small room, 20 to 30, in the audience at the most, and whiteboard behind me, and me, Leanne, and a couple of partners from Cardinal Peak will be there. And Cardinal Peak is a system integrator, a partner of ours. And they were among the first early adopters of ExpressLink, first to actually try it, create a proof of concept for one of their customers, using ExpressLink actually to win a design with one of their customers. And they were a perfect testimony of the acceleration that ExpressLink can provide. So we decided to build this chalk talk all about their experience with using ExpressLink and turning an existing product that that was non-connected and turn it into a fully cloud-connected product in literally in less than a week.
That sounds
And,
great. What session?
yeah,
What session idea is that?
IoT 208.
IoT 208. Okay, sounds
IoT
great.
208. Yeah, I think we're fully booked already, but we might be given a repeat. I'm not sure.
That sounds great.
And
okay.
Yeah, that should be fun. But
And-
there is also a workshop for ExpressLink Monday, and then there's a repeat of the same workshop. So 2 hours hands-on playing with a nice little board. It's a badge, that you can wear on your lanyard. And it contains ExpressLink. It's got a nice display. You can program it in MicroPython if you want. And there's a full 2 hours workshop, hands-on, playing around with this badge. Really, that also was a fully booked session that already got a confirmed repeat on Friday, as I said.
That's great. Yeah, I'll be supporting that workshop on the Friday session. So that is IoT 207. And that looks like a lot of fun. So yeah, if you're at reInvent and you can get into these sessions, they're going to be really great. Okay, and I'll mention too. I'll do a little plug for the Chalk Talk on FreeRTOS. That is IoT 205. I don't think it's actually even fully booked yet. There might be a few slots left. So come by, and Tan Sen and myself will be talking about FreeRTOS, and it is also a Chalk Talk. So looking forward to that.
Nice.
And then Alina, how about you? You've got some stuff going on at reInvent next week.
Yes, I do. So I have a demo at the Modern Application Development and Open Source Zone, and this is on Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. And this is going to show how to leverage tools like Lambda Power Tools, like X-Ray, Amazon CloudWatch, in order to build observability into your IoT applications.
That's great. Does that what session is that? Do you have the ID?
Yeah, so no, there's no ID. So this is going to
ID.
be open space, and anybody can come by within 2 hours and have a look at the demo. And there's also a recording that I'm planning to do and make public, of this demo afterwards. So whoever can't attend reInvent this year, don't worry, there will be a video of this.
Okay, cool. And Nenad?
Yeah, so I'll be presenting things around AWS IoT Fleetwise. We will have a virtual vehicle that you can, customers can come and test drive. So with the wheel, and it will be like a game. In that game, the vehicle will be producing CAN messages, and then we will be able to kind of use the AWS IoT Fleetwise Edge agent to have those CAN messages available and displayed in Grafana. So that's a high-level view on what are we going to show there. So yeah,
cool.
If you're up for a test drive, come over and let's do it.
Yeah, I think that'll be at the Venetian in the open source dev lounge. So come by, and at some point, I think we'll all be around there. So come say hi. And Syed, it looks like, had to drop off, but he's got a number of sessions and activities going on too. So definitely, if you're at reInvent, say hi to Syed as well. It looks like we are out of time, unfortunately. I would really love to thank Lucio Di Jasio. I wish we had more time, but we are out of time. Thanks, Lucio, for telling us all about the new features of ExpressLink, and it really sounds like just a great release.
Thank you. Loved the opportunity to talk again with you and the gang here. Invite me more, although you've been warned. You see how much I can talk.
Yeah, we're gonna have to keep you a little bit more constrained next time if we have you on. All right. Well, thanks everybody. It's a really good conversation. We'll be back next week. Actually, we're going to have this IoT Builders live stream at the reInvent show. So we'll all be on again next week, this same time, I think, and it will be at reInvent. So we'll talk a lot about what's going on there and some of the new announcements and technology and the like. So until then, so long, and talk to you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.